NPI Data Services is a healthcare data and information technology company. We develop products and services using healthcare data. For more detailed information, please navigate to our website at the following URL: www.npidataservices.com. NPI Data Services has made NPPES healthcare provider data available through a web service. This web service provides access to the many convenient and useful data lookup operations. It instantly retrieves the most current NPI details, demographic details, specialty, license, and other IDs and sends them to your application. It is quick and easy to integrate our web service with any of your websites or applications. This demo will show how to integrate our healthcare provider data web service using Microsoft.NET C#. Start by launching Visual Studio. Click on Visual Web Developer to create a new web application. If you don't have Visual Studio, you can install the Express Edition. It can be downloaded from www.microsoft.com/express/downloads. You also need to download and install the latest Microsoft.NET framework. It can be downloaded at the address shown here. Let's create a new project by selecting File, New Project from the menu. In Project Types, we select Visual C#, and under that, there's a Web menu. If we click on that, it will show us a list of templates. Let's select the ASP.NET web application and name it as Web App. Just leave the defaults as they are and click the OK button. Now we have created a new web application project. Let's add a new service reference. Right-click on the project and select Add Service Reference. A window appears and prompts us to specify the address of the service. We type in the service address and click the Go button. A progress bar appears while Visual Studio attempts to connect to the web service. Now the provider web service is found and listed. Clicking on the provider service will let us see the list of functions available in this web service. Let's set the namespace to Provider Web Service and click the OK button. Now we can see that Provider Web Service is added on the Service References folder. Let's go to the web page view and put some controls to demo the web service integration. Now let's type Find Providers by NPI, then drag a text box and a button from the toolbox. Let's try finding a provider by NPI using the web service. We type the label Find Providers by NPI and then drag some text box beside it and set the text box ID to TNPI. Now let's add a button and set the ID to bFindNPI and name it Find. We'll also want to see the response of our search, so let's add some text area and name it TNPI Response. Now our form is ready. Let's click the Find button and go to the Code Behind page. Then we will create a web service instance. Let's name it Client. We also need to initialize our license information and put in a demo account. Here we have NPI Data Web Service _integration_demo for the username and equals TRTDC_QAZU for the password. For the search parameter that we will pass, we need an NPI search criteria object. So we will add search criteria object of NPI search criteria type. Next, we assign the value of search criteria.npi to the int value of tnpi.text and set search criteria.npi specified to true. We also need to instantiate an object variable of provider search response type to hold the response value of the function that we will call. For this, let's name it response. We are now ready to call the function for finding providers by NPI. We pass our search criteria and license info in Find Providers by NPI function that we have created. We will then pass the result to our provider search response variable named response. As the web service returns many data elements back for the matching provider record, let's try to display some part of the data to our form. As an example, let's have person count displayed in our response box. Now let's run our code and check the service call. We select the Debug menu, then click the Start Debugging submenu to run our sample in debug mode. Alternatively, you can just press the F5 key. Then let's have a sample search value, 121.593.0367 for testing. Click the Find button and check the result. Breaking at the code behind, we see the response object and its detailed values from our function call findProvidersByNPI. In the response text box, we get the person count to be displayed. Let's try another example. We will try to find providers by UPIN. Let's just copy and paste our form objects from the previous example and rename the objects. First, change the caption to Find Providers by UPIN. Next, set the text box ID to TUPIN and the button ID to BFindUPIN. Also set the response text area to TUPIN response. This way we can easily identify the controls we're going to use. Now, click the Find button and put some code behind it. First, we will just copy our Provider Service Client object and the User Principal object from our previous example. We need to pass UPIN search criteria in the web service function Find Providers by UPIN. So let's create a UPIN search criteria variable and name it UPIN search criteria. Then we assign the value of UPIN search criteria.UPIN to whatever value is entered in TUPIN text box. For the return value of our service call, let's copy the Provider Search Response object from our previous example. Now we are going to call Find Providers by UPIN function and pass the UPIN parameter. As the web service returns many data elements back for the matching provider record, we will get the person count as part of our response and display it to the response text area in the form. Let's run our code again and key in some search value. As we did previously, let's press the F5 key to run the code in debug mode. For this, let's say we input UPIN B23159. Clicking the Find button will give us the result of our search. Breaking at the code behind, we see the response object and its detailed values from our function call FindProviders by UPIN. In the response text box, we get the person count to be displayed. We will try to use another function in the web service, which is finding organization by name. This function requires 3 parameters to be passed, so let's add 3 text boxes for each parameter: organization name, state, and city. Then let's copy the Find button from our previous example and name it bfindorg by name, as well as the response text box, and name it torgNameResponse. Let's go inside the code of the Find button and put some code behind functions. As we did in our 2 previous samples, let's copy the code to create the web service object and the license information. For this function, we create organization by name search criteria that we will pass later in the web service function call. Here we name it org search criteria. We assign the values that we get in the text boxes in our form for organization name, state, and city. Let's declare a provider search response object that we will use for the response of the function call. Now we'll do the actual call for the function, find by organization name, and pass org search criteria and license info as parameters. We then assign to the response object the return value that we get from the function. The web service returns many data elements back for the matching provider record. Let's try to get organization count from the response and display it in the form. We have just completed our 3rd sample. Now let's run the program and try to key in some values in the text boxes. Again, we press the F5 key to run the code in debug mode. Here we enter WIL for organization name, MI for state, and Troy for the city value. We then click the Find button to see the results. Breaking at the code behind, we see the response object and its detailed values from our function call FindProviders by organization name. In the response text box, we get the organization count to be displayed. This slide concludes our demo on how to integrate the healthcare provider data web service using Microsoft.NET C#. To understand the complete features of the web service, or if you have any further questions, please navigate to our website at the following URL: www.npidataservices.com, and refer to the documentation.